Ginny Thomas is sticking to her big lie, even though when testifying before the January 6th committee, um, we still don't know exactly what her exact phrasing is, but reports from the members of the January 6th committee indicate that the right-wing activist and wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas reiterated during her testimony last week that the false belief that Joe Biden had stolen the presidential election from Donald Trump, which was not the case. Joe Biden won fair and square, and Trump cannot handle the fact that he lost. Um, Whether or not she was sincere in this claim is hard to discern, but she also told the committee that she never speaks about her extensive political activism with her husband, a claim that's so implausible that it's casting doubt on the truthfulness of anything she said during an interview in which she was not put under oath. Now, sorry, telling the January 6th committee that you still believe the big lie may seem, on its surface, to be a really bad idea, basically. But there may be a method to the madness here. After all, Ginny Thomas was deeply involved in Trump's attempted coup back in 2020, as shown by a massive text message to Trump's chief of staff Mark Meadows, and emails to swing state legislators urging them to throw out the results of the election. Unable to plead any innocence, Thomas may have decided the better course of action is to argue that her actions are justified by sincere belief in the big lie. Now, Ginny Thomas is not alone in going this route. On Monday, opening arguments kicked off on the high-profile trial of Stuart Rhodes and four members of the far-right Oath Keepers, who are accused of seditious conspiracy for their extensive role in organizing the storming of the Klan attack on the Capitol on January 6th. Like Thomas, there's just way too much text message and email evidence for the Oath Keepers to deny their actions or intents. Sorry. And instead, they're arguing that their behavior was justified by the belief that the election was stolen, and Trump would let them do it. That's because they're fucking inbred idiots, but anyway. Now, Rhodes' attorney has said that his client will eventually take the stand to argue that he believed Trump was going to invoke the Insurrection Act and call up the militia, which Rhodes had been calling on him to do so to stop Biden from becoming president, reports the Associated Press. Now, as Mike Giglio explained in The New Yorker, the defense strategy is to argue that the pre-planning of the insurrection were not only legal but patriotic, which was anything but patriotic. It was a traitorous act. Even when the Klan riot was going on, Trump and his sycophants were strategizing about how to spin the insurrection in the efforts to overthrow the election that preceded the violent assault on the Capitol. As insurrections were still battling Capitol Police, the text message log from Meadows shows that both Trump advisor Jason Miller and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene were brainstorming lies that Trump and his team could tell to deflect any blame. Miller suggested falsely claiming that the rioters were likely Antifa, which they weren't, or crazed Democrats, which they were not either. A lie that ended up getting leveraged at various times by right-wing pundits over the next year and a half. But the Trumpist line on January 6th has been slowly morphing from "it wasn't us" into it was justified for months now, which it wasn't justified. The effort is led by Trump himself, who struggles to conceal his pride over January 6th, and which demonstrated his immense power over many of his sycophantic inbreds. In recent months, and especially after the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago to retrieve classified documents Trump illegally removed, Trump has only doubled down on his unsubtle view that violence is a useful tool to get what he wants. He's escalating the threatening language and demonizing attacks on anyone he perceives as an obstacle to his power, a strategy no one can in good faith pretend isn't serious at the January 6th. Now, Friday night, Trump did it again, releasing a diatribe on social media accusing Senate Minority Leader Moscow Mitch of having a death wish and making a racist joke about McConnell's wife. As he usually does, Trump adopted a passive tone when talking about violence against his perceived enemies, pretending that he's just predicting bad things will befall them, and not that he's encouraging such things, which he is. At a Saturday Klan rally, he also praised Thomas for continuing to back the big lie, furthering the no regrets messaging around January 6th. Trader Green was even less subtle at the very same Klan rally. Democrats want Republicans dead. No, they don't, and they have already started to kill them. No, they haven't. The language she used was conspiratorial, and it echoes the same theories of the QAnon conspiracy theory cult she is also heavily connected to. But the case that she used to justify this false accusation appears to have been from a drunken fight in North Dakota, which is not at all a sign that there's been some good that has been some kind of good signal for Democrats to start killing Republicans, which the Republicans are the ones that do the killing, not the Democrats. The same, however, cannot be said of Trader Green's comments. On the contrary, speeches like hers should be understood as an incitement to violence. As Mark Pullman explained in the most recent expedition of Mother Jones's magazine, rhetoric like this bullshit here is what experts call stochastic terrorism. Now, it's whereby a leader vilifies a person or a group in ways that are likely to instigate random supporters to attack those targets, while the instigator maintains a veneer of plausible deniability. Now, Pullman has been carefully documenting Trump's tendency to wish for violence, or use of violence, excusing language, and the escalation in the past few weeks has been alarming. Now, taking this all together, a disturbing picture is emerging. There's an acceleration, both in the intimations of violence, and the justification for it all. Now, no doubt Thomas would deny that her reiterating a belief in the big lie contributes to an atmosphere of political violence. Sorry. But there's no way around that fact. Now, if you really do believe that democracy is being stolen by Democrats, then that justifies violence. Indeed, that's a huge reason the big lie was invented in the first place, to give a moral pretext to our moral efforts to overthrow the democratic system. Now, doubling down on the big lie by figures like Thomas and the Oath Keepers, in turn, suggested that Trump's biggest fans think it's still a useful tool to give cover to otherwise inexcusable actions for later on. Now, if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. If you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just as little as a few bucks a month, your donation can help me a long way, and thanks for listening.